Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including, what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
And happy Sunday evening, race fans. Sunday, February 28th, 2016. Gonna have some great weather this weekend. Got out and did some barbecuing. Hoping that gonna hold off for race season. It's right around the corner. But, man, we got a great show for you lined up tonight. We are the Dirt Talk Hour, brought to you by 110 Nation Sports and Mr. CJ Sports, Jason McMillan. Sponsored by YellowCautionFlag.com. Chris Creighton and the guys do a great job. Wasn't for them, we wouldn't have this show. The I-95 Sports Network's been re-syndicating our show sometime around lunchtime, Monday through Friday, so you have the opportunity to get over there and check that out. In case you missed the show, you can check us out at work, driving down the road, heading to a racetrack, wherever you might be going. The man that helps me out here calling the shots, Mr. Chris Creighton. How you doing tonight, sir? Hello, Chris. I guess Chris.
Yeah, am I there in the host?
You are here, sir.
Well, how the heck are you, man? Sorry, I didn't press 1. Make sure, guys, y'all press 1, okay? If you're trying to talk to the host, we just did that for a little fun there. And yeah, Damion, it's been a heck of a week. It's been beautiful down here as well. I think the groundhog got it right this time. Move over winter time. Here comes dirt track racing.
Yeah, it's time, man. I heard you got to go and get some at least practice laps in over the weekend. How'd that feel to finally shake the rust off?
Well, technical difficulties seem to follow us everywhere we go. It was some trouble at first, and then they finally got the practice off. We even got some green flag racing here in the state of Mississippi this weekend. Magnolia kicked off with their Frostbuster annual event. The USCS sprint cars and mods come down. And I tell you what, a Mississippi boy took home the win last night. Greg Hollingsworth and that GRT modified. He took home the win. He outran Ben Stevens of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and also Ken Schrader, the series favorite.
Wow. You've done something when you've outran Kenny Schrader, because anytime that man pulls into a racetrack, he is hands down a contender to win anywhere he goes.
That is very true. Hollingsworth has been on a tear, if I can spend a minute talking about Greg. It started, he's always been a heck of a race car driver. Built him a street stock, come out the door fast. But he is a modified driver and probably the best in Mississippi right now. I think he only lost 2 to 3 races at Why Not last year. He went down to Hattiesburg, won a couple of races down there. And he's just been a terror on these dirt ovals out here in Mississippi. Maybe somebody will have to come down here and stop him. But I tell you what, if Ken Schrader ain't got it, I'm not sure who does.
Yeah, Ken Schrader is one of the toughest in the country to beat night in and night out, man. But, yeah, congratulations to the other guys, hometown boys, going down there and getting the job done, being home in time for dinner, be able to watch themselves on Sports Center. So, man, what do you think about this lineup we got,
now,
man?
On Facebook Sports Center now, you know how that is. They don't put dirt track racing on Sports Center, but we do shout out to CBS and NBC for going out there and picking up some local racing and stuff like that. And I tell you what, race fans, it's a lot easier these days to follow your favorite dirt track racing. Back 10, 15 years ago, it was hard to find, and unless you were sitting at the Waffle House that Saturday night, there wasn't much information to be told, except for the little article in the newspaper, maybe sometime during the middle of the week. Times have changed, and it's really good for racing. And I tell you what, we've got an action-packed lineup here tonight. Once we get through the news here, Damion, what you got for us?
Man, we got this week. It's all about UMP late models, and we'll say late models and UMP. One of our guys is a late model guy, but he really made a name for himself and got his start as a UMP modified driver. Talking about Jimmy Owens, he'll be on with us in a little while. Coming up here in just a couple of minutes, we've got the short, cool one out of Illinois, Bobby Pierce, back-to-back UMP national champion, also won the Hell Tour last year, and he joined an elite list when he was able to pull that off, because I think the number is 5, if I'm not mistaken, of drivers who have been able to pull off the Summer Nationals championship and the national championship in the same year. So he's going to come on, he's going to talk to us about what he's got going on in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and he's going to have a full plate ahead of him this year, so he's definitely going to be getting his frequent flyer miles. And rounding out the show, got a late arrival, but nonetheless, a man that fits right into the mold. We're talking about the Highside hustler. Jason Fager is going to be joining us at 9 o'clock Central, and he's going to talk to us about what's been going on with his operation, what he's looking forward to in 2016. We're going to talk about Hustler Chassis by Fager and talk about the past, present, and future of Fager Nation. So I can't wait, man. That's between the hardware that these three guys hold and UMP, the numbers are staggering. I was crunching the numbers earlier today, and wow, a lot of wins between these three guys. What happened, Chris? Did we lose you, buddy? Well, I guess Chris lost signal or something with us, so we're just going to continue to roll with the show.
There we go.
You're back. You're having
I tell you what,
demons are still biting.
I'm telling you, it's like I had an off year or something. I'm just showing up. I got to tuck my shirt in, splash a little water on the forehead, and get back to business here. Because I tell you, if I'm not mistaken, from a little bit of homework that I've done, you said the national champion and summer national, the summer champion. That's only been only a few drivers to win that, to win both of them, right?
Yeah, I think the number is small. It's an elite list. I think it's 5, maybe 6. I can't remember off the top of my head. We'll ask Bobby when we get him on the show. But yeah, it's a very small list of people that have actually been able to pull it off. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Hell Tour, and I'm sure this number will probably be pretty small, but what it is it's basically just over a month, and out of those 30 or 31 days or whatever, however long it is, these guys are racing about 25 to 26 nights and sometimes 6 to 7 different states throughout that month. So they call it the Hell Tour for a reason. It definitely earned its name. It's during the middle of July. It's hot. It's sticky. It's the Midwest. It's nasty conditions, and it's pure hell. It's plain and simple.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, when you had Brian Shirley on, he was one of those past winners too, right, Damion? I'm doing my stats right here, and Bobby Pierce and Brian Shirley are one of the top ones that come off the top of my head that have actually been able to complete that feat there.
Yeah, Brian Shirley was able to pull it off in 2012, as a matter of fact. He was the national champion and the Hell Tour champion, and he is part of that elite list. And I don't know, I think it's something in the water, because these guys are all from Illinois. So,
yeah, I noticed that. And we stuck old Jimmy Owens right in the middle from Tennessee. I'm sure he's going to feel right at home here tonight. I can't wait to get him on and rack his brain with a few questions. Now, back to some news that we had. Race fans, remember, Hattiesburg Speedway does open up this weekend. It'll be the Ice Cracker, 3rd annual ASCS sprint car doubleheader. The other race will be at the new Deep South Speedway over in Loxley, Alabama. There's going to be some tie-ins between the Outlaws. $500 extra goes to the top points finisher at both tracks. So Hattiesburg Speedway and the new Deep South Speedway are throwing a little bit of extra money there in the Outlaw class. Also, the Battle of the States is next week, the 11th and the 12th. It's all racing on the 12th, practice on the 11th. I do want to hit up some quick names real quick. Shay Knight was the Super Late Model winner last night at Magnolia. Justin McCree in the high roller race cars, he brought home that crate late win in the street stocks. You got Ronald Dunn in the high roller race car, and Jason Bird took home the win in the factory stock. Tony Shelton in the 602 stock. Kyle Emerson and Kyle Carpenter were in the minis, and Seth Bergman took home the big win in the sprint cars.
And I'm envious.
That'll
You've got
do
the
it for
small
my
racing
news.
fuel. I'm envious. You've already got a good lung full of race fuel this year, and I'm just patiently waiting for Missouri to make up its mind on what it's going to do. I think we've had all 4 seasons in the last 36 to 48 hours, and it's driving my allergies crazy. But it's coming, man. It's coming. Well, man, I was crunching some numbers here a little while ago, and just going back to 2010 when our first guest, Bobby Pierce, started getting into supers. He drove crates for a while. I think he spent a season and a half, 2 seasons in a crate, something like 76 starts, 23 wins, 60 top 5s, 71 top 10s. And I think at the time he might have been 12, 13 years old. And as he progressed, listen to these numbers. As you get into 2011, his first full year, okay, out of 54 starts, he had 6 wins. But listen to this, 37 top 5s and 39 top 10s. You move on to 2012, okay, out of 77 starts, again, he had 6 wins, but 27 top 5s, 47 top 10s. Are you noticing a pattern of consistency developing here? It gets better. You move to 2013, 81 starts, had 11 wins, 48 top 5s, 59 top 10s. He was second overall in the national points, second in the Hell Tour points. And then you move on to 2014, and he goes out of 78 wins, wins 16 of them, 44 top 5s, 53 top 10s, ends up the champion. I think he was second in the Summer Nationals, and then he backs it up last year, goes out, and boom, back-to-back UMP National Championships, and he finally catches that Summer Nationals championship, put him in that list of elite drivers, and this kid's consistent, man.
And how old is Bobby? 25?
I believe he is I think he's 19 or 20 years old now.
My goodness gracious. Has a Hall of Fame career, 19 years old. He is young. I knew he was pretty young there. Wow, smooth operator.
Yeah, the
Definitely.
first time I got to watch him run, I think it was 2011, 2012 at the Tri-City Speedway, and he went out there, and I had heard of him, never really got to see him run or anything of that nature, and he goes out there, and I didn't realize he was that young, okay? When he gets out of this car, and I can't see the guy standing on the other side of the car. He has to walk around the front of the car, and there stands this little kid next to everybody, and it dawned on me just how young this guy was, and it was like, man, he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's
it's been a change of the tide watching the new group of racers come in. My wife and I, real quick, we were at Talladega about 5 years ago, and Justin Algier and Brad Sweet were up on the stage together, and both of them were shorter than my wife. So my wife's 4'11". She finally got to meet people who were smaller than her. But now I tell you what. They can be young and they can be small. They can be female or male. When they get in these power machines, they become ruthless. We've got Bobby here in the studio now. Let's go on to our guest and introduce him there, Damion.
Well, folks, man, we've been talking about Bobby Pierce. Man, you got a busy year coming up ahead of you. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, good, man. Thanks for having me. Heck, you talked about all that stuff.
Fun.
It brings back a lot of memories for me. Like you were talking about Tri-City Speedway, man, I remember going back there when I think 12 was my first time I was there, and won a race or two that year, and it's just awesome. That's a lot of memories being brought back to me right now.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier with Chris before you came on, I was looking for you to come around as you got out of the car, and I didn't actually see you until you come walking around the front, and that was my introduction to you, man. But we were talking about some of the numbers, and man, you got some consistency going on here. I mean, how are you able to stay so consistent over these years, man?
Oh, I owe a lot to my dad. After bringing me into the whole racing world, he raced late models basically his whole life, and he taught me everything he knows basically. And when I started racing when I was 8 years old, I believe it's always really good to start as young as you possibly can. And, just been racing since then in quarter midgets and then moved up to bigger classes, of course. And I've been racing super since I was 13, and you guys are right, I'm 19 now. So I don't know, it's just a lot of races. We try to get to all the big races that we can. If you want to beat the best, you got to race with the best. And every time you do, when you're racing with, whether it's Lucas Oil or World of Outlaw or Summer Nationals, whatever it is, just the competition makes you that much better. And you learn so much as a young driver, and it kind of just sticks with you throughout the rest of your racing career.
You're absolutely correct. And you've got an excellent mentor in your father who had a hell of a career in his own right. But also, you were really lucky, as was I, to grow up in a part of the country where dirt late model and modified racing is probably the most fierce competition you're going to find anywhere in the country. I mean, talk to us a little bit about what it's like to not only be competitive, but to be able to win where you're from, out of the Illinois area.
Illinois is definitely home to some of some great dirt races for sure, late models and modified. And whether it's Summer Nationals or just even Lucas, comes to Tri-City, World of Outlaws comes to Farmer City. Lucas has been to LaSalle. And there's a lot of great Illinois tracks to run for late models and modifieds. And, it's growing up around this area, it's kind of made me a bullring racer, I guess you could say, because there's tons of little bull rings around here. And, you really learn how to run a cushion pretty good, I'd say, and definitely knock the spoiler off. But, I don't know, it's pretty great just to race around here because I think you learn a lot, a lot of characteristics on what the track's doing because, it can start out tacky and fast, and by the end of the night it could be slick with a nice little cushion, or, you got to hug that mud line around the bottom, and tracks around here seem to get pretty racy. So, I don't know, it's I like to venture out, that's one of the things that'll make you a better driver, and that's what we're going to try to keep doing is venturing out places, which I got to thank my dad for, ever since I was 16, we've been going to a lot of different places, so that's always good for a driver.
Yeah, what main challenges do you face?
I think we lost Chris. Chris is having some problems with his new studio. He's got a new studio set up, and he keeps having some technical issues, so I'll just continue where he left off. We were talking about the Summer Nationals a little bit, and you joined a very elite list of people, and I couldn't remember, is it 5 or 6 people that have doubled down in the same year?
It's a little number, I know that for sure, and heck, there's so many good late model races around here. Jason Fager, Brian Shirley, Ryan Unzicker, Chan Bass, Dennis Erb, the list goes on and on. That's just recent driving. Weaver. Heck, we can go back in the 90s and 80s and 70s and talk about that, but you'd probably rather talk to my dad about that stuff. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what it's like to run the Hell Tour, and at the end of the day, whenever you're the winner of it, I mean, that has to be the most grueling tour out there that I know of. And
for sure. If you're a late model driver, even a modified driver, they have the modified tour also. If you've never done it before, you've got to do it at least one time. It's just so demanding, and you'll learn so much in that short amount of time. And by the end of it, you'll be exhausted. That's no doubt. But it'll really teach you how to be prepared for no matter what. And each and every night is at least 5,000 to win. There's some 10,000 to win shows on the weekend. And heck, it's about 28 races in 32 days. So in that long amount of time, you only get 4 off days or whatever it is. So it's very demanding. Right. And to win the whole deal is something I've always wanted to do ever since, I started racing late models. I always looked up to that series, and I was always asking my dad, when can we do it? Can we go do it this year? And the first year I did it was in 2013, and Brandon Shepard beat me by about 10 points, I think it was. And this year, or not this year, but last year, I beat Billy Morey Jr. by 10 points. So it's kind of crazy how that happens. And it's just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it, literally, and at the end of it, we're just really glad to be the champions.
Yeah, like you were saying, two consecutive years of the championship, and probably one of the toughest sanctioning bodies of racing in the country is decided by 10 points, and that just goes back to what we were talking about, just how good the racing is in the Midwest. I mean, even with these touring series, you talk to guys like Scott Bloomquist and Billy Moyer, and they'll tell you, they can go anywhere they want almost and cherry pick and get them a win, but they come to the Midwest, and that's just not going to happen. So that's definitely a testament to the amount of talent that we have going on here. But 2014, you get yourself a national championship, and everybody was like, hey, this kid, he might have something. You come back last year, and you back it up with a statement, man. I mean, how good did that feel to be able to come back and repeat what you did in 2014?
It feels great. Heck, last year we were focusing on some NASCAR stuff. I ran a couple truck races, and so we kind of got sidetracked with that a little bit throughout the year. And then it was about early fall, I guess you could say it was, and we really started to look at the points for the UMP national championship, and we saw that we possibly had a shot at it, and I ended up winning like 8 races in a row, and before we knew it, we were in the lead, so it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and you were talking about how you did some NASCAR stuff with Mittler Brothers last year. Man, and looking at your schedule for this year, looks like you're going to be stepping it up quite a bit. I think I counted like 16 or 17 truck races you're going to run this year.
Yeah, well, we hope. We kind of just put a lot of those on our schedule, just have them on there in case we find, big sponsorship for them and whatnot. But for right now, I'm planning on running Kansas, Dover, and Charlotte, and all of those will be in May, I think.
So what was that like to run one of those trucks around the high banks at Eldora and at the end of the day be on the pole for that race?
Oh, man, it's crazy. It was like, I guess I could compare it to driving a street stock around there. I've never drove a street stock, but that's what they look like, going around there. And they're really just a handful on the dirt. And, driving Eldora all the times that I have definitely played a big role in it. I think if I didn't have all the laps I had there, I probably wouldn't have done as good. And I would have liked to win it, but, Christopher Bell is probably one of the greatest drivers out there right now. Heck, you see he can drive dirt and asphalt. He was leading at Atlanta this past weekend, and then just blew right front tire and got the wall. But, it was a lot of fun for sure. I always love running Eldora right up next to the wall. It's always my favorite spot. So.
Yeah, you were looking really good there in your second place running the World 100 last year, man. There was a lot of people pulling for you, hoping you were going to get it, man. Was there a point in the race where you thought, man, if I can get him, or did it just come a point where you used up your tires and you just had to settle for what you had?
Yeah, well, after running the truck race there, getting second, and then going back to the World with the late model and running second, I really wanted to win it. I was tired of getting second, but, we just, to get second in the World 100, I'll take that any day. Jonathan Davenport's been so fast early last year, and then it's carried on into this year, too. So, heck, whenever you can be almost just as fast as him in a place like that, I'll take it. But I would have liked to have had a caution sometime later on in the race when I got into second place, and just like to see what I had for him. My spoiler was pretty beat up, but I don't know. I'd like to see a caution for sure.
All right, Bobby Pierce. This is Chris Creighton from YellowCautionFlag.com. I think my headphones are working now. Can everybody hear me loud and clear, guys?
Yeah.
Y'all hear me okay?
I got you.
All right. Good deal. Look, I want to go back real quick to talk about your challenges you face when you go to these new tracks on the touring series, or when you're just pulling into a speedway. What are some basic challenges and kind of the workflow that you go through to get used to a track when you've been there for the first time?
You always you're talking about the second time you go to the track?
Yeah, when you're getting there, how do you start your notebook?
My dad, he's always taking notes for sure, and I'm always telling him to write a little bit better because he writes so sloppy I can never read it. But, we always just, want to write down every single thing that there is, whether the track's tacky or whether it's slick, write down lap times, and then the whole setup of the car is key. You know, we're always looking at notes, comparing to what the track was some other night that we've been there, and if it's the same way as it says on the notes, then we might go with a similar setup. Or say, you know, something didn't work that night, whether we put on a hard tire and it never fired, then we might look at our notes that way and kind of compare it to that and put on a softer tire or whatnot. But I don't know. I mean, going to the same track more than once is so helpful. You know, I could take Florence Speedway for an example in Kentucky, because I've always been terrible there. But we went back for the Fall 50 late last year, and I won it. So, you know, just going to the track more than once is key. And venturing out to other tracks is always helpful too, you know, because if you race at the same local track every single week, then you're not really venturing out very much, and you kind of just stick to that, and it's not very helpful.
What track do you think has given you the most problems since you've been on the circuit and toured it a few times? What track is the most challenging for you right now?
Oof, man, probably East Bay, honestly. But I won a race there, but it was a day race, and East Bay has always just been one of those tracks, or just the Florida track in general. I'm not very good on those sandy tracks.
I've seen you race up at Why Not Motorsports Park a couple of years back, and you were at the talk of the garage. To see Tyler Reddick up where he is and the success and the challenges that he's going through, are you kind of basing your path to NASCAR kind of the same way Tyler did?
Yeah, you know, Tyler is one of my best friends, and heck, we're always chatting about that stuff. And you know, if I could get some sponsorship help, and I'd love to be racing with him someday, you know, full time in the trucks, or move on past that if it comes to it. But as for now, you know, no matter what happens, you know, you always want to kind of see where you can get. But dirt racing is always going to be fun for me too. So, but you know, we'll try and just try to make a name for myself in the asphalt world. Get some rides here and there. Get some more experience, because I've only had like 6 or 7 asphalt races in total, so I'm still kind of new to it, and I don't know, we'll just see what happens, but if I could get a ride in the truck, that'd be awesome.
What would make 2016 one more question there, Damion, I'll let you go. What will make 2016 a success story for the Pierce Racing Camp?
Honestly, I want to win one of those big crown jewels. If I could do that'd be awesome. You know, I came so close a couple of times, like the USA Nationals or the World 100 or the Cotton Picking 100. I don't know. There's a couple of them out there, and I really want to knock off one of those. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess you've seen Scott Bloomquist and them pick the cotton off the actual cotton strand there up at Magnolia. That's pretty cool, isn't it? They take a photo of them picking the cotton off of that. That's true cotton fields right up there in the North Mississippi area.
It's the Cotton Picking 100.
It's the Cotton Picking 100. That's how they close out the year every year up there at Magnolia. Bobby, you have a great future ahead of you. You come from a deep-rooted racing family. Success has already been on your back. We want to see that momentum keep moving forward for you, and hopefully see you up there with the big boys soon.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you.
Hey, Bobby, I love the answer you just had for that question about what would make 2016 a successful year for you, and every answer you gave was dirt related.
That's right.
Your heart really does lie in the dirt with your family background and just growing up with it being in your roots. I mean, honestly, if you think the guys that have crossed over, like, you know, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, you know, Carl Edwards, if you guys think that dirt racing could get the kind of the media attention and the sponsorship dollars that those guys would just stay dirt racing, just simply because it's more fun?
Oh, I mean, definitely, yeah. I mean, I don't think I say this just because I came from it. You know, it's definitely in my heart for sure. And asphalt racing is still something that I've got to get used to, I guess. But you know, if dirt racing could get to that, that'd be pretty cool. But I honestly don't really know if it should ever get to that point. I think it should always, I think it has room to grow for sure, but I don't want it to get to that extent of things. You know what I mean? I think it should always kind of be that more local racer type feel to it, grassroots type thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, exactly. Nothing like the guy that pulls in on an open trailer and goes home, takes home the money and the trophy every single night. That's to me that was always the best part. Watching your dad grow up, and I'm sure you went around the racetrack almost every single lap you were there with him. I mean, driving habits, patterns. I mean, did you pattern yourself after your dad, or was there somebody else that you really looked up to as a driver and patterned yourself after them? I mean, how did that work out as far as your driving style?
I was about 6 or 7. I was 6 years old when my dad quit, so I kind of remember some things off of it. But I guess the drivers that I kind of looked up to, or I guess you could say, was Denny Schwartz, Jeff Lika. Heck, I don't know. Back when my dad was building modifieds, well, he still is, but when they were really strong back in the day, those guys, and then Fager, Shirley, Brandon Shepard were a couple of the late model guys that we had back then before I started racing those. And I always kind of just looked up to them and kind of took after them, I guess. But, my dad was always there every step of the way, and just big thanks to him, I guess,
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what it was like the first time you got in that truck on a pavement track, and just the difference in the two machines are night and day. I mean, late models are one of the most evil machines on the world, whereas, running on a paved track, you got to use a lot more finesse. There's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, was it completely like a whole nother world to you, or was you able to kind of ease right into it and pick it up real quick, or how was that transition?
I mean, that's a good question. I think a lot of the, basic stuff I picked up on pretty quick, but, heck, all those guys that have been racing asphalt for years, I think there's a lot of little tricks that I still need to learn, you know what I mean? But, heck, there's nothing like going sideways around a turn. And, when you get sideways around a turn in an asphalt car, that's not very fun because you don't want to do that. But I don't know. I mean, there's so much difference in the feel of the race car. And I think after racing dirt, I think some of that I already had in me. But it's definitely a learning curve for sure, and everything, not even the racing part of it, just the shifting part and the pit stops and talking to your spotter and your crew chief. All that kind of goes into it. It's all different.
Yeah, to me, I think making a pit stop would probably be the biggest adjustment for most people to have to get used to. I mean, having to hit that commitment cone, be at a certain speed, there's a lot that goes into a pit stop that, it's just, I think personally for me, I would crash probably the first time I come down off the apron. But,
yeah.
Man,
it takes a lot of focus for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, man, where can people find you at on social media? I know you've got Bobby Pierce Racing.com, Bobby Pierce on Facebook. Where can people go to find out where you're going to be, get a hold of some merchandise, and keep up with what you're doing this year?
Yeah, well, like you say, you can always visit my website, www.bobbypierceracing.com, and just kind of keep up to date with me on there. And we got all sorts of merchandise, and got the T-shirt trailer too that probably beat most tracks that we're at. And just hit me up on Twitter at BobbyPierce32 and Instagram and Facebook. And I've even got a Snapchat, too, I guess. I don't really post very much, but hopefully I'll see you at the next track we're at. And maybe stop by in the T-shirt trailer. I'm normally up there a lot before the races, too.
All right, Bobby,
one
last question.
I think...
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, Bobby, one last question before you leave there. Around about how many years of driving experience is in the Pierce family?
Oof, man. Well,
that's a big number.
My dad's uncle, I'm not sure how long he raced. I never knew him. And then my dad, he raced for, started racing when he was 17, and he quit when he was 50. That's about 33 years, 34, and then I've been racing for about 10 years, 11 years.
Wow. 75 years worth of driving experience right there in that little household. I tell you what, it is great to have you on. We want to have you back on again later on. Bobby, give us some of those sponsors real quick so we can go on to the next interview.
Definitely. Just big shout out to Chandler Spark Plugs, All Gear Incorporated, Premier Waste Services, RPM Services, just Advanced Suspension. Corey, he's always a great guy with the shocks and everything, smart guy, and big thanks to him for all our success. And, I don't know, hopefully we can go into this next race here at Florence for the Spring 50 and get a win for him.
All right, good luck. We're looking to see you get in victory lane there in that 32.
All right, thanks, man.
Bobby, yeah, definitely have a very good, safe 2016, man. I live pretty close to the area, so I'm sure I'll be bumping into you at some point, and I hope to get to see Juan at some point this season.
That's right. Big shout-out real quick. We've got some people that have tagged us. Tammy Davis, thank you for listening there. Ryan Slade, thank you for listening. Go ahead and, I guess, do we have Jimmy Owens ready?
I don't know if we got Mr. Owens with us yet or not. Let me check back in the lobbies here. I don't think he's here with us quite yet, but yeah, man. Okay. Bobby Pierce, can you believe that? 19 years old, and he's already got what he's got under his belt and got what's lying ahead of him just within arm's reach. He just has to reach out and grab a hold of it. And this kid's got the talent and the people and the knowledge behind him that I think he's going to make it happen.
Yes, sir, definitely. Hey, shout out to Charlie Monastrey and Jerome Anders, J.D. Wells from down at Deep South Speedway, Jay Walker, Duck Owens, Mark Hollenhead, Derek Keel, Teresa Townsend, and Ruby Elizabeth. Thank y'all for listening to the show tonight. We'll hopefully have Jimmy Owens here in just a minute. But, man, oh, man, I'm telling you, I knew the experience in that household was unreal, just between the father and Bobby and the uncle. But, I mean, can you imagine the knowledge that's in that house when it comes to these late model cars?
Man, I mean, these cars, it's like every couple of years they change a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And I grew up mostly, helping people out with modifieds and got to know a modified really good. And and then a buddy of mine just happened to say, you know what, it's time to step up, and I want to go faster. And he bought a late model, and man, that was a whole new world. Those cars, I mean, when they say a half a pound can make a world of difference, I mean, they literally mean it. I mean, you can change everything with just the smallest of adjustments. It's kind of like a sprint car. I mean, those cars, I mean, you just got to keep dialing and dialing and dialing and dialing, and eventually you're going to hit on something you like, and you start making little adjustments from there, and before long, you got yourself a little hot rod. But,
well, I tell you what, speaking of hot rod, the guest that we have that's supposed to be calling in here soon is Jimmy Owens. If there's anybody that's come from the grassroots of racing and been around for a long time, Jimmy Owens got to start long time ago racing street stocks. And we just happened to were fortunate enough to see him in a street stock car back in 2014 at the Cotton Picking 100 up at the Magnolia Motor Speedway. He drove a street stock to the victory in the Mississippi Street Stock Series, driving for a fellow named Jesse Barnett. And I tell you what, Damion, it was one of the closest races I've ever seen in street stocks. They were four deep. They were side by side. You just didn't know until the very end if Jimmy Owens was toying with them or if he was just having the time of his life. I tell you what, it's a memory that will forever have etched in our minds, and we have it on video.
Yeah, I do believe you had tagged me in that video not too long ago, and I had watched that race. And that was definitely some good racing. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I was told that the very first time Jimmy ever sat in a race car was a street stock or a sportsman, and went out and won the race. So that was one of those deals where right off the bat you knew he had something there.
Do we have anybody in the backdrop there, Jason? Mark Hollenhead, he was on the line there. Bring him on real quick. Mark, you there? Mark, you there? Say something.
Yes, sir.
Mark Hollenhead from Brandon, Mississippi. Mark, I think you got some good news to tell us about your 2016 UMP Modified that you just got a pretty little wrap put on. Tell us about it real quick there, Bug, before we get to our next guest.
Just getting ready for Friday night trying to for Hattiesburg be the opening night. Got the motor in today, and we'll try to fire it up tomorrow evening. Got to scale it and set it all up. Just ready for it to start.
Now, when you say scale it, you mean like you do the catfish out there back behind the yard, or what do you mean? What do you mean by this scaling here that you talk about?
You got to make sure all your weights is right, and left front and right front, and make sure it weighs enough for it to turn them corners. And this is all new to me this year. I got a new car, got a 2010 Hughes chassis I got from Jeremy Powell, and so it's all new this year. Got a new motor and all, so we just trying to get started.
Now you got a special little sponsor up on the side of that thing too, Hodge of Sawdust there, and what's a couple of them other ones that keep you happy every week?
I got YellowCautionFlag, 100 Service Center by Greg Hollingsworth, Powell Skid Steer Service by Jeremy and Brian Powell, and Hodge Sawdust by Toby Hodge. And,
all right, Mark, where are you going to be mainly racing this year at, bud?
Hattiesburg mostly on Friday nights, and I won't go to the Battle of the State March the 12th. And mostly Hattiesburg and Meridian, some at Jackson.
How long you been digging, bud?
This is my second year in the Modified. So.
You're addicted to the dirt, ain't you, buddy?
Oh, yeah, I've been doing it for a while. I've been going to the racetrack ever since I was old enough to watch it. First race I ever went to was Wyandotte back in 1978, and I was in a baby carriage sitting in the bleachers.
That's right. And boy, you just never got over the smell of that dirt and that race fuel and those tires burning. I tell you what, I was probably about just a little bit old thing too. When my daddy pulled me up in that Wyandotte Motorsports Park for the very first time. It's memories that live with us forever, and I'm just glad to give it to the next generation. I hope that they take care of auto racing and dirt track racing the way that our fathers have, because they gave us something to really be proud of. It's a special moment in dirt track racing right now, and we're just privileged to have all these expensive race cars and good equipment and toters and I think if I could only have one request with all the money that's spent in racing, if you're gonna have one of them big old motorhomes, throw your picture of that race car on the side of it there when you're going through the towns. That way, them little kids can look up there and know that you're a race car driver. That's part of the meaning there. Mark, I appreciate you calling in here, and make sure that you continue to listen to our show. Man, we appreciate our name being on the side of that race car there.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right, race fans, we might be missing out on Jimmy Owens tonight. Maybe something happened there. I have him as a lost cause. Damion, are you there?
Yes, I am back. I had to go to a different line real quick, and I sent him a message to go ahead and give us a call now. He may be Eastern time, maybe misunderstood time. We've had that happen once before, but hey, it happens. Jimmy's a busy guy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's definitely not nothing new in the show business. Kind of slowed the show down there just a little bit. I tell you what, these boys are ready to get out here on this dirt. I'm looking at Jimmy Owens' stats right now. He's already been in 15 races this year. Bobby Pierce has already raced in 6 races. You said y'all hadn't even got the snow off the ground yet. It's definitely been a good start up to the race season. Corey Hedgecock, as a matter of fact, won last night up at Seymour, Tennessee. Jimmy Owens finished third.
Yeah, the Frostbuster.
That's at 411 Motor Speedway. That's right, 411 Motor Speedway there. And so still waiting on Jimmy to call in. If we've got any other callers on the line there that want to give us a shout-out, help us fill the time here. We'll be glad to take your call, give you a minute here on the radio. This is not a scheduled time, and my goodness gracious, our producer says there's nobody there. Okay, well, Damion, what you got for us there, sir?
Yeah, you would going back to what Jimmy had already done this year, already raced quite a bit, and Jimmy made the switch to Barry Wright chassis this year, and kind of had a little bit of trouble getting a handle on things down there in Florida, and he came away, I think, with one podium finish down there, and was at the 411 Speedway last night for the first annual Frostbuster 50, and was able to get a heat race win, and came home third in the feature, so maybe they're starting to finally get the handle on that car a little bit. But I'm sure you know, Chris, anytime you switch anything around that you're not used to, it always takes a little bit to kind of get the handle on it. And as we were talking about a little while ago, these late models, they're finicky, man. You got to get them right.
You know, I've been around a lot of racing, and it's so weird how some guys can come out of the box and just be, you know, explosive. I mean, come out and win races and then go through the kind of the peak, and then other guys have to, you know, work on it, and then they finally explode. I've seen it, especially up in the Cup side, like Joey Logano, you know, just go from couldn't win a race at Gibbs to the hot shoe at Penske. And Kenseth, who never really won much over at Roush, was a good driver, floated with 5 or 6 wins when he went over to JDR. And then, you know, then other times, like you said, there's kind of a slower process. But the Longhorn chassis and these Capital race cars, track stars, they're top of the line equipment. Like you said, it's really, I think it's like 30,000 different ways to set up a late model, but they're really only looking for one little inch, you know, one little metric of an inch that's gonna give them the victory on a Friday or Saturday night under the lights.
Right. Yeah, it's, you know, there could be variations of things, but man, I hope we get to hear from Jimmy tonight. Jimmy, if you're in the studio, press 1 and say hey. If not, man, we're going to have to burn up a little bit of time here before we can get to Jason. But, man, Jimmy was kind of like in the younger days, we were just talking to Bobby Pierce about how hard it is to run here in the Midwest with UMP sanctioning, and Jimmy was able to rip off 4 national championships in the UMP class, and I just, hang on 1 second. Just got a message from Jimmy Owens. He apologized emphatically. He should be giving us a call any second now, so good deal. But hell, I done forgot what I was saying, Chris. Lost my train of thought. Help me out, buddy.
Oh, you're just so delighted because let me tell you something, guys. We've kind of been shaky on this one. This has been the biggest show that we've ever planned. I've never had a list of these drivers to be on a radio. I passed them in the pits for a lot, but actually bringing them on and giving these interviews and all, it's been a great rise to be able to sit here and have a great conversation with these top caliber named drivers. And you know, I guess sometimes, you know, you have to shake the rust off. And technical difficulties follow me everywhere I go. I'm kind of used to it, Damion. I kick back and just let Mr. Technical Difficulty do his thing and somehow try to come out of it. At least we have a little extended show here tonight. We did get a little bit extra time the Dirt Talk Hour has been a great success, and it's because of you listeners. I can't believe the amount of shares and the feedback that we've gotten from this show. Damion, of course, was brought on here to take a show, and then some things happened. We rebranded that show, and I come on board with them, and we just kind of, we had a week or two to put this thing together, and I've gone back and realized, man, we've already done 6 or 7 episodes already, and it's been growth every week. And I-95, shout out to them for streaming our show. I hope I get my voice back somewhere by mid-season here. I don't normally sound so scruffy. You there?
I'm sorry, do I?
All right.
I was texting Jimmy Owens. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's all right there. But we're excited about the direction that the show has gone. Our producer, Mr. CJ Sports, he kind of runs the telephone lines back there. Okay, we got somebody, a guest in the studio. Come on in real quick. Help us out here. We're drowning in the radio waves. I'm sure people have already turned us off. Come on, tell us something good.
Hey there.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
All right. Hey, Chris, this is Ryan Slade.
Ryan Slade. I hear you, man. What are you doing tonight? You got that orange beast about ready?
Yeah, she's about ready. We're getting some lettering done. We made some practice laps yesterday out at Harrisburg Speedway.
That's right. How did the track feel? I heard it was a little bit dusty, but did it have a good bottom in it? And you think it's going to be a good track for 2016?
I think it is. Mr. Donald Parker, they've done a lot of good work out there, and they got it wet down, and we made some pretty quick laps. Just ready for it. It's been a long 5 months for me.
That it has, and you were on a rise there toward the end of the season. You found yourself in victory lane there. And you got a little bit of time to sit on that. What do you got for these Pierce Street guys this year? And before you go, make sure you give that pitch for a sponsorship.
Oh yeah, well I don't know. We're hoping to run as many points races as we can this year, and looking for hopefully a points championship. I don't know. There's a lot of good competition in our class at Hattiesburg Speedway. Always looking for help, whatever help we can get.
Now, tell us real quick, Ryan. Back in the old day, people thought of Pure Streets as the old junkyard cars put together. Y'all got some pretty nice machinery down there in the Pure Street class. Tell us a little bit about the identity of what the Pure Street class is.
Well, the Pure Street is pretty much, it's going to look like a stock manufactured vehicle. It's GM power plant and GM cars, Ford cars, such as that. I run a Monte Carlo, but the only thing that's got to be actual steel is the roof skin. The rest of the body is built out of aluminum, but built to look like a Monte Carlo. We run a 450 lift cam rule, 360 cubic inch max, weigh 3,100 pounds. And other than that, no weight jacks. It's pretty much bring it.
All right. Ryan, now I know you're looking for some sponsorship help on that jet fighter. Give you a pitch there, and thank you for saving us here tonight and calling into this little radio show we have.
Oh, man, it's not a problem at all. Anytime you need some help, give me a holler.
All right, thanks, bud.
Definitely. Thanks for taking some time to come out there and talk with us a little bit about what you got going on for 2016, and hopefully all of you guys have a good, safe, productive year, and we'll talk to you a little bit later. Well, folks, through the magic of radio, we are joined by the Newport Nightmare, Mr. Jimmy Owens. How you doing, sir? Hello, Jimmy.
Can you hear? Oh, shoot, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Jimmy? Man? Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How you guys?
Oh, we're not too bad. We were sitting here shooting the breeze about the young 2016 season. And, hell, man, what do you think so far? You guys trying to get a handle on that new Barry Wright?
Oh, yeah. We're trying. We got new cars, new motors, a whole lot of new components on the car. And, it's just a big, a whole lot of testing and trying to get better going on right now. So we're a little behind the eight ball, but we'll get there hopefully.
You had a pretty decent showing last night down at the 411 Speedway for the first handle Frostbuster 50. Picked up a heat race win and a third place feature finish. Was you happy with what you guys found with the car and made it a little bit better?
Yeah, we seem to, every night we ran this year, we started out kind of slow and made gains as the night went on, and usually end up, gaining a few spots during the feature. But, early in the night, during qualifying and hot laps and everything, we definitely got to pick up the pace and get up on the wheel a little better than what we've been doing.
We were talking with Bobby Pierce before you were on. He's having a lot of luck there in the UMP late model series, and you had a lot of success in the UMP modified, racking up 4 national championships, and we kind of got Bobby's take on just how tough it was to pick up a national championship in a late model. What's it like to win 4 in probably one of the stoutest sanctioning bodies in the country?
Oh, it was definitely fun. Back in the day, me and Chris, we took a lot of time and just run up and down the roads and enjoyed it a whole lot. I would take layoffs. Like I worked at TRW and they had a couple of voluntary layoffs, and that one year I took like 3 or 4 months off, and we just went and traveled and raced and just had a blast. And a lot of the times they would have like states races, and like each. It would be like a national title deal, but they'd have like a state title and all that stuff. And I think one year we had raced against everybody in the top 10 in points. We'd been to their home track and raced with them. And it was a blast.
And back in the day, before you really committed to the Lucas Oil Series, you were more of an outlaw. You just kind of hit and miss wherever you wanted to go, and wherever you popped up was where you'd be. And then 2011, you decided to jump on the Lucas Oil Series, and lo and behold, you got yourself a couple of championships racing side by side with some of the best guys in the country, man. I mean, what made you finally decide to stick to a series and, just go for points?
Kind of the same thing that kind of got me to go into the late models there. Back when I was running the modifieds and everything, the car count around here in Tennessee kept getting a little smaller and a little smaller, and then the purses kept dropping, so we'd run for $300 every week. And that isn't enough to keep the team going, especially when you have to win. And right. So the local tracks kind of started dropping, so that's where I'd have to travel, 3 hours just to race. And then when I went there, I would have to win. And, the competition keeps getting younger, keeps getting tougher. It gets harder and harder to win every week. And so I thought, man, I gotta get out of this class and move on to something else that is maybe more profitable or something, And so economically it was better to move up to the late models, but I had a lot of financial help and stuff with, Jerry Weisgarber. I drove for him and drove for Herod Farms and some guys out of South Carolina, 2 motorsports guys. Well, even in the supers, after a few years, back when I pretty much started running Lucas, a lot of the sanctioning bodies and series deals started, the economy was taking a dump and everything was going downhill. And so you was hearing of tracks not paying people and stuff like that. So I thought, man, I don't need to get involved with that. I said, we could jump on board and run this Lucas deal. We're running 70% of their shows anyway because it has 10,000 all the time. And we would go
right.
to them. I said, let's just go ahead and bite the bullet and run the other 25%. And then that way we're guaranteed a purse. We don't have to worry about, traveling 5 hours down the road to some racetrack and they not be able to pay the purse.
Right.
And so once we got, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so once we just jumped on board there, we had never moved back off. But everything's kind of picking back up now. It seems like to where a person can do that a little more.
Jimmy Owens, this is Chris Creighton from YellowCautionFlag.com. As I'm sitting here hearing you speak, you're so soft-spoken. We actually got to see you pick up a street stock win down at the cotton picking in 2014. And to hear your interview, you're such a soft-spoken guy. I've always wanted the opportunity to ask you, how much fear did you put into him to be called the Newport Nightmare, Mr. Owens?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how I come up with that one. It definitely doesn't seem like it fits from hear people talking, but I don't know. Back when we was running modified and stuff, it was just we were pretty, we were fortunate to be able to win a lot of races, and so this one guy that went to a lot, and we would bounce around, but we would always try. And one year we followed UMP Summer National deals a lot, and so we got to see a lot of the same faces. And this one announcer just pinned that on me because we were winning nearly every time we went to the racetrack, and he just started calling me that, and man, I hated it.
So how did you feel when you looked in the newspaper for the first time and seen the Newport Nightmare? You didn't like that, and then it just happened to stick, and you're okay with it now?
Yeah, you might as well learn to love it, I guess.
and this has stuck with you for 20 or 30 years now.
It's been about 15 or better. Probably not that long. Maybe it has. Maybe I've lost track of time. I'm getting a lot older.
Well, I've always called you the O Show, the O Show, and I'll continue to pull for you. 15 races already this season. There's no break in dirt track racing, is it?
No, there's not. There's not at all. We usually leave Florida and get about 3 or 4 weeks off, but we've got races scheduled up until we start back with Lucas Oil Tour again.
How many times will you make it to your home track this year, Jimmy?
Right now, our home track, we're not even scheduled to be there any this year. And then that's kind of a bummer because, a lot of people like to see us race locally. So the closest we'll be probably to our home track will be Tazewell and Smoky Mountain.
Okay. Now, Jason, our producer, he's got Rosie on the line, Rosetta Sparks. She's a fan from Arkansas. She wanted to ask you a quick question there, Jimmy. Jason, can you bring her on? Okay, she already left out of there. Yeah, unfortunately, she's already left the studio there. Sorry about that, Jimmy.
Sorry, it happens.
Hey, Jimmy, let's talk a little bit about the LG2 and the success you're having all over the country with people running your modifieds, man. What made you to decide to start your own line of cars, and what is it about them that's just getting better and better and better? Is it the attention to detail that you're putting into them, or is it just are the right people getting these cars and know exactly what needs to be done to them?
Well, I've always built cars for a while, and we built them and ran them. And then I got to where I had to pretty much decide if I was going to race or build race cars. So I decided to race. And then a good friend of mine was needing a job, and our race team was kind of full. And I was like, hey, man, Jeff Strope, he coming down wanting a job. I was like, well, you can kind of take over my Blue Scruff here, my LG2 cars, and kind of get them going. And so, he was able to put a lot of the right people in our cars. And our cars are really good because of our customers, Buzzy Adams, and just, he's won a couple of national championships, and Derek Ramirez, and, Stormy ran the cars for a while. And Zach
Vanderbeek's had a lot of success.
Yes, and all those guys, just through their input, are able to make my cars better along with, our experience and everything. But, our success is definitely based off all of our guys, because I'm busy doing late model stuff, and, that's what I want to do, but I want to provide people with good cars. So I just take their information and try to make things better.
Yeah, I've definitely
Jimmy,
never heard.
when does slowing down time happen? Are you gonna keep on with this schedule for a while, or do you see yourself slowing down in the near future?
Well, as I was like supposed to call you guys at 8:30 or whatever, and I got caught up with Nathan playing cards and had my phone laid down, and I went to put him to bed, seen them texts. I was like, uh-oh. Like I forgot everybody. And I want to go strong and until Nathan asked me to stop. And he seems to be okay with it right now. And I asked him the other day, or here a while back, over the winter, I was like, Nathan, I said, you okay with me racing? He's like, yeah, Dad, I miss you a lot while you're gone. I was like, do you want me to stop? And he kind of pondered. He's like, well, Dad, I miss you, but, it's pretty cool having a race car, Dad, so you're good.
Parenting done right.
That's priceless. That's it. That's priceless. One more thing, Jimmy. Do you have any wants to get back in a street stock? Did that win at Magnolia? How many times have you remembered that since then?
Oh, I've scrolled through Facebook and watched that feature race several times. That was awesome. That's the most fun I've had forever. Do what?
Yes, sir. 42,000 people and growing that post. Was absolutely an amazing race. Just a true testament of what the street stocks are like. Do you have any interest in racing street stocks maybe in the latter part of your career?
I really enjoy racing. My brother, he runs street stocks quite a bit, and that's what I actually started out racing, and that's the first time I've been in one probably since 1994. And man, it brought back a lot of memories. And we'd been down yonder in Columbus and watched those cars race and I was like, man, they always put on the best shows. And it was great to be a part of it and be a part of a heck of a show. I mean, I never dreamed I would beat those boys, but heck, for making cars wide as I could.
It was a night to remember for sure at the cotton picking. I think that we've got Rosie that's ready for the question. Jason, do you have her on the line now?
Hey.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, this is Rosie. I'm the one who called in earlier. Sorry if I dropped the line.
What's your question for Jimmy, Rosie?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you so very much for answering. And I'm very new to the dirt track world. I'm a big fan of the dirt track, and I go to Batesville Motor Speedway a lot. And I have a question that will help me understand more about what I'm seeing on the track. Whenever I go there, I always confuse all the different classes because they look so alike from up on high in the stands. But I've seen them a few times, once now down in the pits. What are some key differences in looks that could tell each class apart?
Big difference in looks as far as, a lot of the limiteds versus about all your late model limiteds and all that stuff basically are identical cars, and you can't really tell much until I guess they drop the green flag and you hear the motors. Even us sitting in the lineup chute, you just got to know who you're racing with, or there's been many a times I've climbed up and went out with the wrong class.
Yeah, and basically, I think that as an announcer, I look at the spoiler. If that might help you out there, Rosetta. Sometimes the spoiler's a little bit bigger on the class of cars. So, a great question there, and thank you, Rosetta, for calling in and giving us that question there for Jimmy. Jimmy, what else do you have planned for this year?
Oh, nothing. We're probably going to head out to Oklahoma this week. Maybe race a modified few laps, and that's about it. We're going to try and get this R&W Motorsports car up front and see if we can get Barry some wins and stuff for the season.
Well, Jimmy, we definitely appreciate you taking the time, spending a little bit of time to talk with us here. Glad you got to spend some time with your boy. We was kind of wondering if we was going to get to talk with you this evening or not, but always good to talk with you, and hope 2016 turns around for you and you guys get that Barry Wright lined out and see that 20 car back in the winner's circle.
Thank you, guys. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy. Thank you so much. Just a dirt legend right there, back pocket racer. He's been in it and stayed in it long enough to be able to make a career out of it. Just you won't find a better guy out there on the racetrack. Definitely one of those names that make you go, when you hear the Newport Nightmare. He must have been one terrorizing son of a gun and a modified to get that. Get that name.
Yeah, a lot of people
we're ready
that
to bring in.
Yeah, absolutely. We were delayed just a little bit there by Jimmy Owens. Had to put the kid to bed, but Jason Fager, the Highside hustler, been very, very patiently waiting for us, and we do appreciate that. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Man, season's getting kicked off, ready to go. You got a couple laps under your belt, man. What do you think? How's 2016 going to be the year for you again to get back up there and claim the throne?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty pumped up. We've got our motor program built up real good this year, it seems like, and we've got a new Black Diamond chassis, and we had a few good strong runs down there at Volusia, and got some of the bugs worked out. Hopefully down there we didn't have to wait to mess around with here, and we were struggling to get qualified down there, but we raced really good. We just couldn't get qualified, so we're gonna get that figured out. But no, I'm definitely looking forward to a good year and racing a bunch.
We were talking this evening, and pretty much the topic is how tough it is running in the Midwest and in the UMPs, especially in the late model class. And you're one of the guys that's not only got a UMP Summer Nationals title under his belt, but you've also got the national championship under your belt. And just how hard is it to do that in the UMP sanctioning body in the Midwest? I mean, you can't go anywhere around there and cherry pick.
No, there's a lot of tough competition around here, especially I'm only 3 hours out of the St. Louis area. They always got good competition, and right here, Farmer City, Fairbury, LaSalle stuff, it's pretty stout. So. And then anytime, there's like a 2,000 to win or a little bit more, you're going to have, at least another 10 guys rolling that are capable of winning. So it keeps you on your game, but, we got a lot of good action around here.
And talk to us a little bit about what it was like once you finally sealed the deal and you picked up that national championship, because, I mean, just as a fan, it goes to a lot of the Hell Tour races, and just knowing what goes into it, how hard it is. It's got to be one of the most satisfying championships in dirt racing, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Summer National, it definitely seemed like it was a lot cooler to win than the national deal. The national deal is, it draws you out all summer long, and about make yourself sick just waiting for the points to come out every week, and you're racing against guys up in Oakshade and down into Tennessee, so you don't know, you just kind of got to wait for the points to come out every week, and you're calculating this and that, and doesn't it go here, and it's just long and drawn out and really stressful. And I hate points racing, but that part was bad. But the Summer Nationals, you know who you're racing against, you know where you're going, and it happens in a hurry, So you kind of get you might get it's a better feeling, I think, once you knew. Like we actually won. The night before the final race, we actually won, and that sealed the deal for me. So, to be able to get a win and do it, and I think, I don't know, Herb might have been on 3 in a row or 2 or 3 in a row or something like that or something, but it felt great just to, that's a big accomplishment, because it's just such a grind, and you got a lot of good cars that run that deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best in the country run that tour. We were talking with Jimmy a little bit about his LG2 design that he's got and how successful it is. It is for him, and you got a little something going on yourself, man. What's going on with that Hustler by Fager?
Just kind of we're kind of putting it on hold a little bit right now. You know, we've just got the Black Diamond car and still got the stuff that I've been redoing, and we got one about done, but I've actually been working on the house. I bought a house and kind of completely gutted it and redoing it, so it takes a lot of focus, you know, to do that, and I haven't been able to spend as much time out there as I need to concentrate on it. But, you know, we keep testing new things. I'm learning new stuff, and one of these days, you know, I'm going to, you know, after I get some stuff settled up around here, and we really got to try to find a bigger shop. I just don't have very much room here, and it's really hard to do what we do. I don't even have enough room really to race my own stuff, let alone constantly working on customers' cars and selling parts and stuff like that. So I really got to be able to get to where we can be a little more organized and have some more room and probably a year or two, and then really kind of gear up and try to make that thing go somewhere.
Let's talk about that Black Diamond chassis. How's that coming around for you? You guys getting a handle on it? Is it kind of similar to what you've run in the past, or is it something completely different?
It definitely has quite a bit different feel to it. We ran one. We had a new one last year. We ran about 4 or 5 nights, and had a guy wanting to buy it, and so we built a new one, and I mean, they're really good. And, you know, it seems like the slicker the track gets, the faster they go. It's just I got to figure out how I can get them around in the mud a little bit better. But you know, I think we'll get that figured out. But man, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, it's been a while since I had a new car, and just pretty pumped up. See what happens.
Now, there was a pretty big story going around a couple of weeks ago about the EPA wanting to step in and try to put the brakes on racing, man. What was your take on that whole situation?
I read a little bit about that on something, a little article or something. I don't know. I just don't foresee it ever coming to fruition. You know, there's just so many forms of motorsports out there, and there's so many big companies, you know, that have such a vested interest. But from what I was reading, you know, SEMA was the one kind of going to fight the battle, which, you know, they own PRI and everything, so they definitely have a good voice in the backing between a lot of the big companies, you know. So at least, you know, it's nice to know that you got somebody out there that would, you know, kind of fight the fight and look out for the motorsports, but I just don't know how they'd ever do it. I mean, what are they going to do, just show up to every racetrack and start giving out fines or whatever? I mean, I don't foresee them ever being able to do anything like that. You know, there's just so much racing and boats and drag racing and off-road, you know, stuff. I mean, motorcycles and four-wheelers, I just don't see how they'd ever be able to do anything like that, you know.
It would definitely be a very, very, very big job to take on to try to do something like that. I agree 100%. Let's talk a little bit about your family history and what you had growing up in Illinois. I know your grandfather was a big influence on your racing, and you had some other family members that raced. But talk to us a little bit about how your grandfather was behind the wheel and what you was able to take from him.
You know, I never even got to see him race. He was kind of done racing by the time I started, or by the time I was old enough to remember. Or I don't even know if he raced at all when I was born. I don't think he did. You know, my uncle, which he started racing, you know, probably about when he was 16, and then he raced for a long time, and then he's probably been done for 4 or 5 years now. And you know, my dad, he probably raced for, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 12 years, something like that. You know, he didn't race a lot, but he raced a little here and there. And but, you know, I was pretty little. You know, my dad kind of quit when I was probably 5 or 6, I guess. And I kind of always helped my uncle, you know, while he raced.
Looking back at all the great drivers you got to watch growing up where you grew up, man, and who jumps out at you? I mean, when you were a kid growing up and you were really getting bit by the bug, you're like, man, I want to drive just like this guy or this guy. I mean, who were those guys for you?
I was a big Bob Pierce fan growing up. You know, he was kind of one of the ones to watch, him and Jim Leka and Dick Taylor. I mean, them probably was my three favorites as I was a kid, you know. And then kind of, you know, that when I got a little bit older, you know, that's when like Moyer and Babb and O'Neill, them guys really kind of dominated the Summer Nationals there for probably like a 10-year stretch, it seemed like, you know. So that's kind of when I was probably more in my teens and early 20s, you know, and I was able to, you know, that's when I was learning a lot about racing, so I was really able to watch them guys a lot, you know. So that was pretty cool.
And looking back at all the success and the accomplishments that you've had since you started running late models and touring around and getting your program out there, I mean, when you look back at it, I mean, what's some of the moments that really stand out as a big accomplishment?
I don't know. I mean, definitely, I think winning the Summer National is a pretty big feat there. But you know, being able to win a Lucas, you know, any Lucas Oil races is a big deal. So you know, the wins we've gotten there, and then you know, we won the first one Oil Outlaw race we won was, man, we were just such a low budget team. You know, one motor, one car, and, you know, a little enclosed trailer and stuff, and we went to Wisconsin to a track we'd never been, and we actually whooped them pretty good, man. I mean, honestly, if it was green flag, I mean, I was about to lap Josh and Daryl, I think, when the yellow came out, and it was like 15 to go. Otherwise, I was going to lap up to probably like third or fourth, and I mean, just that was awesome. You know, I'll never forget that one. And then one of the first big ones I won was down at Kentucky Lake. You know, I actually passed Bav, and then I had to pass Moyer, and you know, to take the win there. I think it might have been that March Madness deal or whatever, but that was a pretty awesome feeling. I'll never forget that one either.
Jason Figure, this is Chris from YellowCautionFlag.com.
How's it going?
Tell us about, pretty good, man. Tell us about the experience of going from a low-budget team to where you are now.
Well, we're still a really low-budget team for what I do, but, man, I got people that ask me all the time, and, you know, heck, we went to a racing party the other night, just a guy over in Peoria, and, you know, a lot of them guys are just telling stories about me as a sportsman driver, and, man, I really, you know, really came from nothing. I mean, my family doesn't really have, you know, any money like for racing or anything like that, and I've just been fortunate enough to get by over the years, you know, and I never thought I'd be good enough to be able to race for a living. You know, I was always a good mechanic and a good fabricator, you know, and thought I would be a better crew chief than I would be a driver. And we just, you know, started off with a bunch of used, real low-budget stuff and just, you know, tried to make smart decisions, you know, on and off the track, you know, and we've just built our way up from a, you know, borrowing a trailer to go to the races to what we have now, you know, and, you know, I raced a long time with unused parts and, you know, even my late models, open trailer and used cars and used motors, and it's
now,
taken a long time.
Is it true that the first motor that you bought was 10 years old?
Yeah, I started racing in, I started late models in 2002, and I bought a motor from Tony Izzo that Ryan had built in, and it was built originally new, I think, in 1989. So, yeah. I mean, they've been freshened up and stuff, but, yeah, you know, as far as the block and heads and stuff, they were older than that. They were, I guess, 13 years old. Yeah. Well, heck, we ran that thing for 3 or 4 years. You know, it was a good motor.
Jason, we hear so many times about getting mentored and finding that person that kind of helps them get comfortable with their seating. Have you been able to experience the other side of that yet? Have you mentored somebody, and if you have, who?
I mean, I do. You know, I do help some kids out and some of my customers out and stuff. You know, you know, I generally enjoy helping people, and I can get. It's pretty cool when I get a customer here. You know that if he kind of struggles or doesn't do that good, and we work on his car, and he goes out there and he comes back, and, you know, and he's like, man, that's the best thing I've ever drove, or, you know, and I can help him on driving, you know. And then when they win, you know, like I've had a few guys get their first wins, you know, and they just are like, you know, that's an awesome feeling to see them guys do good, you know, and something that you had a part in. So I generally enjoy that. But, yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, it's kind of different, you know. I'd like to find, you know, a young kid that kind of, you know, you could help and you know what I'm saying, wanted to learn and stuff. But, you know, I really, you know, Brandon Shepard, he was really, like, you know, Stevie kind of was getting out of racing, and Brandon went on the road kind of with me for a lot of those races and his crew guys. And, you know what I'm saying, we kind of looked after him for quite a while when he was 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, you know, when he was pretty young. And, you know, he's obviously, we talked a lot back then, and he does great, obviously, and
look what you created.
Well, I couldn't have a better kid though either. So,
tell us what you would do if you hung the steering wheel up today. What would you go and do to keep your time?
Man, I really don't know. I'd probably just figure out something to build. I'd be working on race cars or trying to build parts or make something to make some kind of job easier somewhere. I don't know. I just like building stuff.
Out of everything that you've won, what is the one that's on the bucket list? What's the one that's eluded you that you just want more than anything?
Man, I'd really like to get to Cedar Lake, that Eagle trophy up there, that USA Nationals. I don't know, we just my first time I ever went up there with that fans fun vote, got me up there. The place just kind of, got all the fans up there. It's just a great atmosphere and a great bunch of fans, and it's a really cool track, and the stuff they do up there, and it's just ever since I went there, I don't know, it's just kind of a little bit of a special place up there, and it'd be awesome to get that one.
Well, Jason, tell everybody where we can keep up with you at throughout the year. I know you got www.jasonfager.com. I know you got your Facebook stuff going on. I know your mom has a big hand in some of the coolest merchandise that is out there, hands down. I know she designs a lot of that stuff, man. Where can they go to find this stuff?
Yeah, that's it. JasonFager.com. We got a store on there. You can order online, and then usually we're always putting where we're going and keeping the Facebook updated pretty good at Jason Fager Racing.
Jason, before you go, you took my question, man. Come on. I mean, let me get one.
Great minds think alike, buddy.
I'll tell you, my question was a little bit more pointed. Is it World of Outlaw or is it Lucas? Which way we going?
I had to go somewhere?
Yes.
Oh, I'd go race Lucas. So, for sure.
Hands down,
that's where the hitters are, and, they got a really good organized program, and they're trying to get their hands around this tech game, and they do as much as they can to on that aspect. And
what's your take on that while you're talking about it?
Most crown jewels on the rules. Oh man, it's out of control, man.
Whoa.
I don't know.
Let's sound the siren there.
I'm lucky that I'm glad I live where I live because it's good and it's bad, because we got such small tracks around here, and the tires we run, that the game some of them guys are doing right now with the aerodynamics and the spring setups and stuff. I don't know that it'll work that good around here, honestly. Just because we're on a lot smaller tracks, but obviously when you get to the bigger tracks and stuff like that, we're gonna have to come up with a different program, and it's tough, man. I mean, that's you love it and you hate it at the same time. I love technology and new things and making stuff better. I think that's just awesome, but at the same time, it's really hurting our sport. It's really hurting the local guys and even the regional guys like us that don't have some of the resources and the money and the time to do what those guys are doing. And so it's good and it's bad, and unfortunately it's hard to make some rules about some of the stuff that's going on. And it's just one of those things where, it's just some of that technology goes from Cup, and then it leaks down to us, and it's going to the modifieds, and it's going on to the street stocks, and it's just crazy. Your street stocks out there run $400 and $500 shocks on every corner, and $10,000 motors, and then you got modifieds that cost as much as a late model, but race half as much, and then I don't know, then. The late model class is kind of out of control, but now they've let the modifieds get out of control, and then it's like you really only need one class that's out of control, and you don't even need that, actually, but, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, and I don't know. I mean, them guys are working hard, I think, to try to find some rules and do the best thing that they can for the sport, and they're trying to look at the big picture, but, unfortunately, where we're at right now with shocks and springs and aerodynamics, the downfall to that is we're going so fast in the slick now, and the mud we're not necessarily that much faster, but the slick we're so much faster. And it used to be, when I started this deal, if you had 700 horsepower, that was a badass motor. Well, now
right,
you don't have if you don't have 850, you need more. And the problem with that is you got to buy better parts, and then now the parts only want to run 1,000 laps instead of being able to run 2,000 laps. So, I mean, motors are really expensive, but it's not really the motor man's fault that we're doing what we're doing, you know.
Yeah, you just brought up a great point. I've heard from throughout the last few years, is it time to slow you guys down? People say, well, it wouldn't be as good a racing. Some people say it would be better racing. Jason, you're seeing the true economic impact of it as being in the class of racer that you are. Do you think a downsizing horsepower could help even the field out better, or is it really just now so much in shocks?
Yeah, I don't think it's the horsepower. We got to figure out how to get these cars so they're not hooked to the track. You know, we got to do some stuff, I think, to the bodies to try to make them, not as aerodynamically dependent, to where they're not stuck to the track as hard, and make some rules for Iowa to stack springs and the bump stops and some of that stuff to try to take some of that out of the equation as well. And I just don't think downsizing our motors is going to be any advantage to anything. I mean, I guess maybe they might live a little bit longer, but you're still going to – there's no way to police them. The motor is like one of the harder things there is to police anyway, So that's going to be a tough deal, and you're going to get to where this guy lets you run this motor and that guy runs that motor. And heck, I mean, that's even way worse. But I just think we got to figure out how to work on the cars to get it so we can – not need as much motor as what we have right now, or maybe something in the tires. I don't even know if it's possible. It's just kind of where we're heading, and it's going to be interesting going forward. I mean, that's why I kind of say about that Summer National deal too. It's not these cars aren't made to race every single night like they used to be. It used to be you just kind of keep racing them and go. Well, now it's like every time they come home, you want to take your shocks and springs off. You need to dyno them. You got to go put them in the spring smasher, set it back up, and it's like right now the differences are just really small. Where it used to be, it wasn't that way. Like you just kind of could race these cars over and over, and it wasn't as bad. But now, we're running just a lot higher end parts that acquire more attention to detail and more maintenance, and it's just a lot of work. The races are won pretty much in the garage, and that's where it makes it really hard to go run every night of the week. And then you got guys that'll stop in that. They haven't been racing. They just show up on the weekend. Well, how you keep up with a guy that's his car's clean, he's been able to work on it all week, and here we are, raced 6 nights in a row. You're wore out, you're tired, your car's dirty. You know what I'm saying? You haven't had time to check everything over like you should have, and it's just tougher. And it's like things are just getting that way now, to where it's just getting more fine tuned, and the little details and stuff like that is what you really got to pay attention to.
With all the above mentioned that you had just mentioned to us, as you look at that going forward, I mean, you think in a year, maybe 2-3 years down the road, or even right now, is it going to make you have to pull back from, as much traveling as you used to do, just simply because of, it's just exactly as you just say. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it just kind of depends, and then, I mean, it's just gotten to where. The other problem right now is it's hard to find the good help that you need. Like, I got really good help, but the technology that we're getting to as far as the springs and the shocks and the setups and stuff like that, you're getting to where you need guys with higher educations and guys that are probably deserve to be paid $70,000 to $80,000 a year to do what we want. And, it's just – and it's not that you need one of them. You need – it's getting to be – like, in my mind, it's getting to be where we got you probably need to carry a $150,000 payroll for 2 or 3 good guys, and that's just kind of where some of them big teams are able to do some of that stuff and bring in consultants and go testing, and it just makes it hard, and that's where it's just getting to that point to where it's just now starting to get there, and then that's what I'm seeing, though. I think in 2 or 3 years, if you're not going to have somebody that's capable of using all the resources and doing that stuff, I mean, you're going to be way behind. It's just getting harder for, the guy that was a mechanic or just the guy that's always been a racer or something like that to keep up with as technical as everything has gotten and became, and it's just, without monster budgets. So, you can't just, this shock's better. You can't just go buy a new set of shocks every week from a different company or this or that. You got to work on with what you got, and it just stuff like that's going to make it tough, and it just, I don't know. They need to do something, but, it's tough for me, and, I'm supposedly like a big dog, right? And so the local guys, man, it's just, I feel bad for a guy that has to work 40 hours a week and come home and work on his race car. That's I used to do that all the time, but it's just he's getting to be where these cars just require so much work that it's hard to do that.
Realistically, when you get ready to go, you're turnkey, you're ready to get your season going. At the end of that season, bar you don't destroy a bunch of cars. We're talking numbers here. Realistically, to run a season, you run basically between 85 and 100 races a year. From a financial standpoint, what does it take you to do that?
We usually do probably about 80 races a year. Man, I figure for me it's usually about, I don't know. I haven't even done my taxes yet this year, so I don't even really know, but you're talking that you probably need, like for me, the way I race, you probably need to do, about 100, and you need probably about 150,000 minimum. That's 100 to 150,000.
Jason, that's right on where we had discussed earlier, about $150,000 to run an operational.
But the other thing you got to figure for me is, like, I very rarely race more than 2 to 4 hours from my house. I'm just really fortunate that we have a lot of big money, right from my house, and I can do. I can probably only leave more than 4 or 5 hours, probably 10 or 15 nights out of those 85 years, but. Some of the budgets, like, I don't buy any new motors, I just, fix mine, sell some parts and, put new parts in them and stuff like that, like we're really economical and, that's pretty much just paying one crew guy and it's just, that's not half my truck's paid off and, the tow home and the trailer's all paid off. I could see some of these guys spending $400,000 to $500,000 a year pretty easy that are all on those series. I've heard of some guys, spending $100,000 to $150,000 a year on motors. If you break a couple motors and or have to buy a couple new ones.
So what amazes me is it's still a game of centimeters. It's still a game of centimeters, even through the financial disparity, and we've watched it grow bigger and bigger in racing. On any given weekend night, you'll have a low-budget team that stole the spotlight or sat on the pole or had the fast time. One way or another, these smaller teams always seem to get their names somewhere on the printed newspaper. Have you noticed that, Jason?
Yeah, there's a lot to be said just, for determination and just willpower, and refusing, not to just, you gotta do it, and but I think that's something also to where, like in my area on these smaller tracks, it kind of takes some of that stuff out of the equation. But when you get to some of the bigger half-mile tracks and some of the other stuff matters a little bit more. You don't often see the low-budget teams, beating the big teams, but it definitely can happen, But I feel like, the start has kind of got to line up just right and everything, too, It has to be one of your tracks, and I feel like it's getting tougher and tougher to do that, too,
Have you ventured down to the Southeast very much and raced outside of the Midwestern region?
We've been to a few tracks here and there, but not really. We haven't been to a bunch, We've been to Mississippi a few times, and I think we've been to Bulls Gap and Gaffney, and obviously we go down to Charlotte for the World Finals. But there's just so much racing around here. It's hard for me to get away. But I'd love to go out and see more racetracks and meet more people and stuff like that. But it's just without a sponsor to paying the bills, it's hard for me to leave the house.
Jason, thank you for coming on the show here tonight. You were absolutely awesome. Sorry we were a little bit behind schedule there with Jimmy.
No, that's no problem. It's cool listening to his stories.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'll tell you, it is. I wish we could have got a little bit more in depth with it too. Tell us, about your sponsors. Shout out to Mom. This is where we always want to make sure that we're connecting with the drivers. The drivers are connecting back with their sponsors. So give us that, and tell us where to find you on social media.
Yeah, definitely got to thank my mom and my girlfriend Abby and Devin, and all the other two guys that helped me, here and there. But I got to thank Floyd and Cheap Cars, Titan Industries, Pro Tire and Automotive, All Star Performance, and Renegade Race Fuels. Black Diamond Race Cars, Advanced Shocks, By Action, and Ryan Motors. Them guys are probably my biggest guys there, and all the other product sponsors I have. Definitely couldn't do without the product sponsors, and they help me out a ton. So, and then obviously you can find me at JasonFager.com and Jason Fager Racing on Facebook.
All right, thanks, man, and we'll be glad to have you back on the show here again later on in the season. Ladies and gentlemen, That was Jason.
Anytime.
Damion, you got any last questions, man?
Hey, man, I just wanted to hit real quick on what you had just said about having to have people with real good head on their shoulders to be able to do what you guys do now. And you had mentioned, the very few people that you have in your corner. And I grew up in the same area watching you get to where you've become. And like I said, your mom's very big into your racing career. She's an awesome person, and Devin's probably one of the most underrated crewmen. That guy does a lot. I mean, there's been nights where I've put onboard cameras in your car, and there's Devin and one other guy doing the work of 6 to 7 people, and man, they still give you quality piece time after time. So man, it's just, you hit the nail right on the head. You gotta be diligent about what you do and surround yourself with the right people and just keep plugging away. And man, I hope 2016 is a hell of a year for you, man.
Thanks, I appreciate it. We're definitely pumped up for it.
No problem.
Hey, and one more time, where can we find those T-shirts at? Man, I love a man who brands his own stuff. Tell us one more time where to get that gear at.
JasonFager.com.
JasonFager.com. I'm looking at it right now, guys. He's got his own apparel. Make sure that you go out and support this dirt tracker right here. You might just make sure that he gets into a race there in your hometown. Support these guys. When they have their brands and they're selling their T-shirts and their hats, buy it up. You don't want to go to Aeropostale. You don't want to go to all these places where these city folks wear their clothes. Wear racing shirts. I don't even have polos anymore. All I have is racing shirts. So to help support these drivers, and Jason, we appreciate having you on, man.
Thanks. I appreciate it, guys. Anytime.
All right, folks, that's the Highside Hustler, Jason Fager, one of those FBI boys, fast boys from Illinois. Man, what a show. All three guys, really humble, really successful, all racing in the same region, having a lot of success. Man, what a way to close out the show.
Yeah, it was definitely, it went for a ride tonight. Of course, we, have to give a shout-out to technical difficulties. Follows me everywhere I go. I'm sure a lot of you are laughing right now. Ha, 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 ha. I get tired of laughing. Thank goodness we had a couple of guests that called in and kind of saved our tail there. Sorry about the dead time. And that's why we try to keep it simple and keep the shows pretty much on sketch. We tried something a little bit different, so it might have bit us in the tail for this time, but we'll be back and ready to do our hour again next Sunday night. I really love this Sunday night show. I think it really kind of it gives people that chance to sit back and relax, and tomorrow's Monday. It's not the stress of the work week yet. I can see this show going pretty far off. Look, I don't normally do this, but definitely if you're looking to give some advertisement, we are probably in the area right now to where we could take on an associate sponsor, give you a couple of seconds of airtime if anybody's interested. We've got great show stats, and we would love to sit down and show, Jason and I would love to sit down and show you what we can offer to your brand or your company.
We are growing.
Damion, I know that you were really excited tonight, and I heard it in your voice when we first went on the air, and I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, he's got the jitters. I think we all kind of hit our low point, and then we quickly once we gathered it up and we knew the Newport Nightmare was calling in, I think we kind of recovered the show there and kind of strolled there for the last hour. What do you think?
That's live radio. I mean, it happens. You're an announcer. I'm an announcer. I mean, you can write something out 5 times. My wife, and I give her hell about this all the time. She wastes more paper. She will make a list and then not be happy with the order that the list is in, and then have to use another piece of paper to rewrite it. And she'll have like 4 or 5 pieces of paper in front of her. Folks, that doesn't work in radio. You're never going to get it, you know.
We just talked about our wives, and so that means we're gambling on our house. I would cut the radio show at Waves now, because we won't have anything left in the morning if we continue to talk about our wives on the air here. I got really fortunate there. Yeah, well, Jason's over there like, yeah, y'all have that wife problem, but you know, like I said, we've kind of gelled this thing together, and we'll definitely go kind of back to our old ways next week. I'm just happy that we were able to recover and give the audience a good show tonight, and I hope that the questions were informative, and I'm sorry that we didn't get as much time in the forum. When things are going haywire, it's kind of hard to have fan interaction, but good recovery, guys, and Jason, you got any closing, anything we missed, any errors to correct or anything like that? Is Jason asleep?
He's silent in the matter.
Jason, you are fired.
I'm not fired. What are you talking about?
You're fired.
Well, did anybody learn anything from talking with some of these amazing drivers tonight that you didn't know?
Yeah, I want to know how in the world he got named the Newport Nightmare. I mean, seriously, they must have been standing on top of their haulers watching him come over a Tennessee hill saying, oh, my God, there's Jimmy O, the Newport Nightmare. They're with my lunch money this week. So he must have robbed quite a few lunch boxes.
Well, I would imagine trying to race against that guy on a regular basis is kind of just that, a nightmare. Because, I mean, you look at it, I mean, here's a guy, like we were talking about, you know, UMP, really tough sanctioning body, especially in the modified division. And this guy goes out and he rips off 4 national championships in, I think, 5 years. And he's got, over, right at or right over 200 wins in a modified. And then you turn around and then you go up a class where the competition is twice as good, you know, and he's got 300 wins in a late model against some of the best competition in the world. I mean, the guy, when it's all said and done, when he hangs it up, he's just going to go down as one of the best to ever put a helmet on and, you know, strap into a dirt car. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal talent. I mean, you stop and go back to 1991 at Kingsport Speedway, the first time he jumps into a street stock, and the guy goes out there and he dominates the race. I mean, that should have been a sign.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of those, you know, uncharted talents. In other words, God just made him a natural driver, and he was given the opportunity one day to show those skills off, and he's never looked back. One thing I found interesting in 2 out of our 3 guests I know, we're talking back pocket racers here. We're not talking about the guys who had the best of equipment their whole lives. And I know from, you know, the earlier past of Pierce Racing, they come up the hard way too. So these guys all struggle to get where they are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's the saying? If you ever want to be a millionaire racing, you need to start off as a billionaire or something like that. I mean, all these guys, they put their dues in, they put their time in, and you know, you heard Jason Fager. He summed it up perfectly. I mean, these cars are getting to the point now where it's a second full-time job, you know, and a lot of these guys, you know, with the economy the way it is, it's getting so hard to keep up with the Joneses anymore. And, you know, you can see it across the board at every racetrack you go to. I mean, car counts are down. We're hurting, man. I mean,
no, not around here. Not around here, brother. Not around here. Car counts are not down. Racing is splurging around here. I can't argue the reasons why. But I have had arguments with some pretty big time promoters because, not to brag that Mississippi and Alabama have healthy car counts, but because there's maybe Mississippi's doing something different, and the other, some of these other places kind of need to look into what the secret sauce is going on. And I can't name just one specific thing, other than these race car drivers in this area, the Mississippi, Alabama, Florida coastline. These boys didn't have anything in the first place. These boys really are still going out there pulling something off the old Lincoln. And so you've got a different talent, a different breed of drivers down here that have always run more with less. And so I think right now the economy, we're all used to the economy that we have now. As a matter of fact, I think that a lot of people have seen a little extra income being brought in when you're taking gas that's $3 cheaper a gallon now than what it was a year and a half ago. So, and let me tell you something. You want to make a racer go broke? Fuel cost. I can definitely say that the stars are aligned in this area, and not to brag that we have we're doing it better or we're doing it, but if these guys are struggling in certain places, take a look at what in general the southeastern region is doing with racing. I think a lot of it comes down to sometimes we hear about two $15,000 races being 70 miles apart from each other. That's not good. We wouldn't do that around this area. Though there are weekly competition with racetracks open close to another track, generally on big races, they either keep it two different kinds of events or different weekends.
Now you just hit something right on the head, and we have that issue up here, and it's not so much now. I would say maybe 10, 15 years ago, before all the racetracks really started to close up. I mean, you had probably 7, 8, maybe 10, 12 tracks within 2 hours of each other, and probably at least half of them, if not three-quarters of them, were running the same sanctioning body. But this was also at a time when, jobs were plentiful. It didn't cost, $100,000 to run in the top 5, and we had good car counts. And over the last 10 years or so, when the auto industry and everything really shut down up here, especially in the Midwest area, you had a lot of your Ford plants, your Chrysler plants, your Chevrolet plants. Well, they all went under. A lot of people lost their jobs, and you saw it immediately at the racetrack. I mean, we went from tracks around here every single night for years that would average anywhere between 4 to 5 classes of cars that would have total car counts of in the neighborhood of 200 cars every single night, and they were quality cars. I mean, you had 6, 7 guys that could go out there and win a race. I mean, it was just really good competitive racing. And the job market here is dried up, whereas in the Gulf Coast, you guys are thriving. You got, all your steel industry jobs down there are going good. You've got your oil fields are going good. You've got your offshore work that's going good. I mean, the Southeast, they've always had a rich, really good racing roots and tradition there. I mean, you look at some of the people that have come out of that area and have went all the way to NASCAR and are still doing their thing. But I think the economy has a lot to do with it. I hope it rebounds for us because, man, I don't like going to a racetrack where I'm used to seeing 200 cars and lucky to see 90. It was kind of depressing.
There again, I mean, it's sustainability. And I don't see how in the world, some of the racing is done out in the Midwest, because when you go out there, you can't find any populated areas. It's all farmland. So it's really amazing that these guys can go out and race 3 and 4 and 5 nights a week. I would love to have a taste of what the Midwest races down here in the Southeast. I think that's what probably makes it so intriguing about you being the co-host, because I dream of 5 nights a week racing in the Mississippi Southeastern region. And I think that one day we could actually handle it. But we're talking about an area where you're from, where there was every bit of 100 tracks within 5.5 hours of each other.
Easy.
Be it
Easy.
paved or dirt. See, around here we probably have 20 tracks that in between the Georgia coastline and Houston, Texas. So I mean,
I also think that's more beneficial in the long run. I think that is more beneficial to have. If you take away all, and if, racing, we have tracks around here that are 50, 60 years old. They're just tradition, deep roots. But I don't know. I kind of like the mentality of, you take a couple of tracks like you got down there and you make them into really nice, facilities, and you're going to start to get the car counts. You're going to be able to give the bigger money races. And whereas up here, it's just, there was a time it was just so saturated. It was just, you were losing car counts to tracks all over the place. And, man, it's just, I really want to see racing rebound to what it used to be. I mean, we need to stop digging so deep into our pockets that we're scratching our kneecaps, and I don't know what to do, man. I mean, everybody's scratching their heads. I mean, if somebody can come up with an idea.
Racing always fixes itself, and I know that there's going to be people that argue this, and I don't even like getting into the discussions of financial means of racing, because for some reason, no matter what rule you make, the racer's always going to spend more to win, and that's just the name of the game. Money by speed. You're not going to be able to change that aspect of it. But now, what I believe has happened that people don't realize is there's more sanction series now, so there is more control of these outlaw tracks or these outlaw rule packages. And things are kind of, moving in the direction of consolidating to certain rules. I mean, especially as these big events start popping back up, and you have UMPs and IMCAs and all, and you're not really wanting to run any cars off from your track, so you're kind of opening your rule book to what your track is or what your sanctioning body is. And I think that adds a new twist, because as you see with enduro races and any other race, Toyotas and Fords, this is a game of milliseconds. This is centimeters.
Exactly.
And no matter, I've seen a 604 crate motor go out and beat a 525. So, it just depends on. I've watched a crate motor outrun an open motor. On any given the track, be it tacky or whatever, you can always reduce the speed. Like Jason said, there's so many other ways, but you're never going to stop the people from spending money in racing. All you can do is hope that you create enough business, and Interclub have got to remember, this is an entertainment business, and promoters have to remember all this stuff that they're selling. They've got to sell it to the fans too. And nothing sells tickets like a 3-wide finish. And nothing sells tickets like a bunch of happy kids that aren't asleep or their parents are having to pull them out of the gates at 1 o'clock in the morning because they're still racing. The saddest thing to see at any dirt track is parents and dads with this lost look as moms scorn them because it's past bedtime and the baby's already passed out. So, there's a lot of ways to fix racing. We're not a show that's going to try to fix racing. We want to knock on the happy times. There's a lot of extra spending in racing. It's from the top to the bottom. You got kids in mini stocks that are running $4,000 mini stock motors now. That's just the nature of the game. We've got to accept it. I don't think I want to argue with you. I think the economy is better now than it has been a long time, because one thing about it, we've got used to being broke. Racers are taking care of, like Jason pointed out, things are a lot more finesse now, so you have to give a lot more detail, which means that you're not as likely to go out and break a hub, and because you've got a guy who is going around checking every little nick and cranny to make sure, because right now if you were to break a tire, it could cost you a $25,000 car. What I see so many times in the dirt track business is somebody buy a brand new car and they sell their last year's car. And I'm thinking, well, what if I wreck that brand new car? How am I going to get it fixed if I've already sold my last year's car? So it's definitely it's chess, not checkers, and it's a sport that we all love. So, boys, y'all keep on spending, and we'll keep on watching, and we'll keep on talking about the price of racing as we all pull up in our motor homes and enclosed trailers.
I think one of the biggest shots in the foot, one last thing before we go, I think one of the biggest shots in the foot, like we're talking about as far as, you know, you were just saying how you would buy a brand new chassis and still have last year's. I mean, you know, last couple of years, I mean, these cars just keep getting lighter and lighter and lighter, and it's basically anymore, you know, you take a good shot in the side and modified, and you're basically junk. I mean, they're throwaway chassis nowadays. I mean, unless you want to restub them, reclip them, whatever, if you got the time and the knowledge to do it, you know, there's guys that do that, and there's some guys that just, they either don't have the time, they don't have the knowledge, and, you know, the cars are junk. I mean, they're just getting so fast, so light, and I see it all the time. Guys come out with a brand new piece and...
Look at the day and age that we live in, Damion. I mean, you go back to your mom's house. You're my age. You go back to your mom's house or your grandma's house. That rotary phone had sat on that end piece next to the couch for 20 years. Grandma didn't go buy a new rotary phone every 2 years because they come out with a black one and then a gray one. So we're in this consumer age. And the price of steel has been, you know, it was up pretty high there now, but you know it's coming back down, and I think that you know they are able to make these cars cheaper, more affordable than ever before. But where you're paying, you know, cheaper for a chassis, you're spending more in the shocks and into the motor and components, such as that. So. Like I said, I think it's a never-ending deal. We've just got to make sure that we're selling to the race fans entertainment, and that entertainment means racing becomes in so many different forms and fashion. There is a guy in the very back that is just racing not to finish last. There is a guy who says, I want to beat my time from last week in qualifying because I didn't hold my breath long enough or I slipped over there in turn 2. Racing, in this life, you're racing against the clock and everything, and so that's what we as promoters, entertainers, what word am I? As orchestrators of this madness, we've got to remember that race fans want it to be fun. They want it to be entertaining. As long as we go the extra mile on that, they'll have open pocketbooks. But when we quit giving them entertainment, we would be at the end of we would lose. Yep. We would lose. But I think we've come back.
Yeah, I would really like to see it bounce back. I mean, for me personally, there is no better time in racing for me here in the Midwest than the mid to late 80s. I mean, the old center seat super modifieds, non-wing. I mean, that was just good racing. I mean, these were cars you didn't have to go spend the money on the high dollar spindles and everything like that. You go to a junkyard, you get it. You know, and that's when racing was fun. You didn't have to spend the thousands upon thousands of dollars to go out and make a couple $100, whereas now you're still going out and spending even more thousands and thousands of dollars to basically make just a couple extra $100 from what you were making 15, 20 years ago. So
it's a hobby. Okay, it is a hobby to Damion. But in order to sustain as even a hobby, it still has to be a business. So, you know, like I said, we can't fix the economics of racing. All we can do is make sure we sell tickets. And guys, I've had a great time tonight. It is past my bedtime. I'm ready to put them old sleeping socks on and tip my nightcap. And, guys, I hope y'all tune in again with us next Sunday night on the Dirt Talk Hour. This was the extended version here this week. We kind of knocked out 2 shows in one. But, like I said, thank y'all for listening. And hopefully didn't draw it out there in the end, trying to face the economics of racing. I promise you we won't have too many conversations about that because it is definitely too opinionated across the board. Whether it just depends on where you sit at this table. So, Jason, Damion, thank y'all very much for having me aboard here, and I hope y'all have a great night as well. Thank y'all.
Hey, not a problem, Chris. I think next week we're going to try some open wheel racing, maybe talk to a few sprint car guys, maybe see what's going on as they get their season wound up. Again, thank our guest, Bobby Pierce. Check him out, BobbyPierceRacing.com. You can find him on Facebook, on Twitter. Shop out for his apparel. And Jimmy Owens, same thing. If you want to get into one of his LG2 cars, www.jimmyowensracecars.com. You can find him on Facebook, on Twitter, and go out there and get you one of those LG2 mans, because they are racking up the wins in the championships all over the country. 423
Hey,
1439. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Mama. Hey, Mama Hollandhead. Bye. I'm out. I'm tired. Good night, y'all.
Peace. All right, buddy. See you next week. And that's going to do it for us on the Dirt Talk Hour. We'll see you next Sunday night, 8 o'clock Central.
Hey, it's Flo, and this is my impression of a drill instructor directing a musical. Town hut! Get those tap heels in line and let me see those jazz hands! Are you bundling your home and auto insurance through Progressive? Can you hear me through those sequins?
Bundle your home and auto through Progressive and save.
Left, 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 and step ball change.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates. Home insurance provided and serviced by other select insurers.